they're going to be. Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, with a tough act to follow. Jeremiah Dickey, Boise State AD, was just on with us. Mack, the ball is in your court.
I'm glad you had Jeremiah on. I know he's doing a fantastic job at Boise State, and certainly wouldn't have expected anything different. So, when I use the word proud, I can say that, that's the right word for me. When I think about him, I'm really proud of him and certainly happy for him and Elizabeth and his family. And they're doing great things in Boise.
Mack, are you in Kansas City?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Any chance you guys have had any conversations as ADs or presidents or anything else about the future of of the Big 12?
No, we haven't. We the athletic directors are scheduled to meet tomorrow morning, and we've got a full agenda, and we start at 8 a.m. and I'll be walking out at 10:30 a.m. whether the meeting is done or not, and get over to the arena for our 11:30 a.m. But a lot on the agenda. We'll talk about a variety of things, and so looking forward to that. And may head to the arena tonight for the two games tonight.
Let me ask you a question when it comes to a lot of focus on realignment is in football. And I know that Gonzaga's been brought up in basketball, and Brett Yormark has mentioned that international flavor and the popularity and maybe even extra revenue. Is there any chance if the Big 12 was expanding that it would be only in basketball, or would that have to be included in that would be football?
I think, well, to answer that question, I think this is what you're asking. I mean, I don't know that we would ever take an institution that offers football at the FBS level and men's basketball and only take them in men's or women's basketball for that matter. Now, would we potentially consider an institution that doesn't play football, that has a really, really strong basketball programs when we think about women and men? Absolutely. And the commissioner, I think, has mentioned it or touched upon it. And I would agree. And I think we all do that, basketball's been, undervalued, so to speak, up to this point in time. And so I think, in the future, and when I say future, I would say, 5, 6, 7 years from now, when new media deals are negotiated, that there'll be a little bit more value or higher value certainly on basketball.
Mack, do you feel that basketball can drive more of revenue or of expansion than people think? Especially with, I've heard Brett Yormark mention the international thing. I mean, it is huge everywhere. And how do you get into that market, and how does it expand?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and I think you have to be careful where you spend your time, where you spend your emphasis. Is there room for international basketball connection, etc.? Yeah, I do think there is. How you do that, I think needs to be really, really thoughtful in where you do that. And so, just like the NFL plays a game in London, right? Does the Big 12 need to play a game or games, internationally? Is that Mexico? Is it somewhere else? And I think, part of this, Paul, is about just expanding the brand of the Big 12. And are there any natural connections? NFL in Mexico, right? Well, is that an opportunity for Big 12 football and basketball in Mexico. And so those are the things that we, certainly have had conversation about, and we'll have more conversation about. And when we think about return on investment, value back, does that make sense? And quite frankly, I think your TV partners are going to have a big say in whether that makes sense for them. And then again, does it twofold help expand and build the Big 12 brand?
Mack, can you explain how different the level of urgency maybe feels as an athletic director? I mean, it seems like we were just talking to Jeremiah Dickey of, like, I asked him, is the chaos just media driven, the stuff going on behind the scenes and in front of the scenes as far as just, survival of the fittest, realignment, NIL, all that stuff? And he's like, no, it's as chaotic as it appears to be for an athletic director. But from a Big 12 AD standpoint, is there a little bit, I guess, of an alleviation of some of that urgency because you guys were able to square away a TV deal, get all settled in, or is that as high as it has ever been because you're having to constantly look at, all right, what's 2, 5, 7, 10 years down the line?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some inner peace, regarding Big 12, future of Big 12, that, right now, we've flipped in the last year to 18 months as being perceived as very unstable to now maybe, one of the most stable of the Power Five. And so I think there's that component, that piece that you have, but the industry itself, everything that we're dealing with, it is absolutely chaos. And when you think about mental health, when you think about transfer portal, when you think about name, image, and likeness, when you think about all of the NCAA deregulation, volunteer coaches to full-time coaches, all of this, right? Meal deregulation, student-athlete travel deregulation, Alston. Like, it is coming and has come all at once. And, we're all trying to navigate this as best we can, first and foremost, institutionally, and then certainly as a conference. And it just seems like, this is just a different time than I've ever experienced, and just in terms of the compounding challenges that we're facing. It almost seems or feels like this relentless pace, and I think you're seeing it impact the industry. You've seen some coaches walk away. I think you're going to see and have seen some athletic directors walk away. It's just it's a really volatile time. We certainly try to see it through a lens that, hey, this is also a time of great opportunity for Baylor, and how we find our place, how we find our niche. Really felt like we were in that really good place, not satisfied, knowing that we still needed to get better, but then now all of a sudden, all of this other stuff changes, and it's almost as if we're in the process of even reinventing ourselves again. And I think, it's how many times are we going to have to reinvent ourselves? Like, is it going to be, multiple? And I think we've talked about it on this show. I don't know that there's any more best practices. We're absolutely making those as we, creating those, developing those as we go. So it's a really interesting, challenging time. And if you let yourself, right, you begin to feel really, really bogged down, and maybe at some time, just almost like hopeless. And I would say for us, again, we've tried to look at it, hey, this is a really, really unbelievable opportunity for Baylor to shine. And, I'll go back to, I really believe that Baylor, that intercollegiate athletics needs a Baylor, and so we're going to continue to try to be proactive in terms of challenges and navigate them as best we can.
Mack, is there, since you said like best practices, you don't really have that list anymore that you can do. Is it more this is ethical and this is not in the way that you have to go through things with the ever-changing world?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and I don't think for us, it's ever, there is absolute when you think about ethical and unethical, and so it's always going to be, whatever we do is ethical. Where and this is probably hard to explain, but where I think some things in the past were black and white and maybe absolute, just in terms of processes and how you handle different situations. I just don't know that one size fits all anymore, and it's almost on a per case basis. Now you base all of those decisions and the way you navigate and handle them still on your core principles, but I'm not sure that you can have the same answer for everything anymore. And this idea of it's more gray than black and white. So, and again, that's really, I always have to be careful talking in this manner, because what you never want to allude to and even crack the door open to is that we're going to sacrifice our core principles and doing it the right way, because we're not going to. And I think for many of us, not just me, but I think for many of us, if we ever get to that point in time where you absolutely have to sacrifice your core principles, value system, our Christian beliefs, in order to be successful, it's the only way that you can be successful, then I would say that many of us won't be in this business much longer.
Mack, I don't know how much on the agenda tomorrow is what else you do as a conference moving forward. Obviously, there's something out there that's kind of the 800-pound gorilla in what the Pac-12 might do, what might be available to them and or not. You've made comments about the future if there's an opportunity. Brett Yormark has, Jamie Pollard has, Gene Taylor has, others have as well. Is the conference stuck in a way when it looks at their future until something is known about what the Pac-12 has in their future?
No, I don't think it's stuck. To be honest with you, I think the hold pause mode was really I think more about future of UT in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And so now that we have definition clarity there, I think that certainly allows us to really formulate how we're going to move forward as 12. And so, again, regardless of what happens to, conferences around us, Pac-12, maybe right now specifically, we're in a really good place, and we're not putting anything on hold in terms of the future of the 12. And so, we've spent a bunch of time, and we should, and we'll continue to spend, most of our time and focus on the 12 and how do we build the 12? How do we make this the best conference, that we can possibly be? And, going back to what I said originally at the beginning of this interview, I think we've really flipped. I think if you look at it, it's a little bit remarkable that we've gone from one of maybe the unstable to a conference now that's looked upon, as being really, really stable, one of the most stable amongst the Power Five. Now, that could change tomorrow, and certainly, we're not foolish, and we're not sitting here, thinking that, hey, we're good to go for the next 15 years. We've got to continue to build and get stronger and grow stronger. And we've talked about it, and you mentioned the other athletic directors about the Pac-12. I want to make something really clear, and because I think it gets lost when we talk about this. I don't know one athletic director in the Big 12, including myself, certainly including the commissioner, that's sitting in a room together or when we're on a phone that is rooting and hoping that the Pac-12 dismantles. Nobody is wishing that. And those are all great institutions. They're friends. And sincerely, truly, we wish them the very, very best. Now, if something happens with their ongoing negotiations and they're not in the best interest of those institutions, then absolutely we need to be prepared for that. And and I think that's what we've been doing. And so we'll see how all of this plays out.
I know you're losing your voice and you need to keep it for the games, hopefully all the way through the weekend as well. Have other people from other conferences like the Big Ten or the SEC, people in the business, whether it's ADs or whoever, said anything to you about how the Big 12 did dig itself out of what was a very difficult situation and commended you, or is that even something that's ever really discussed?
Yeah, we appreciate that question. I've heard from other ADs in other conferences, and one, I think initially they were like, "Wow, really surprised. That's not close to what we thought that you all would garner when you think about the new TV media deal with both ESPN and Fox." And they've been very congratulatory and supportive, and so certainly appreciate those phone calls.
Thank you, Mack. Appreciate your time. Good luck, Baylor men and women this week in Kansas City. Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, with us on 365 Sports. He's on today because tomorrow.